A dangerous winter storm is about to slam the United States, and it just took a huge turn. In case you haven't heard, a winter storm is about to cause major problems in the United States again, and this one could be even worse than last weekend for some areas. It all begins today, as a historic Arctic blast will drive extremely cold air into the southern United States. This polar plunge will crush temperature records from Florida to the northeast. This will significantly affect those without power from our last winter storm, which caused over 110 fatalities. But this is just the beginning of a very volatile winter pattern, as a major winter storm is set to impact millions of people this weekend. This winter storm will be very rare, as it is forecasted to become a bomb cyclone. If this winter storm takes the right track, it could dump feet of snow across the East Coast, with rare snow possible in areas like Florida and Louisiana. The worst part about this winter storm is widespread blizzard conditions are possible. This could lead to power outages, as wind gusts could exceed 60 miles per hour this weekend. Now we have a lot to talk about in today's forecast, and I want to begin with our winter storm threat that is growing along the East Coast this weekend, which is going to dump snow basically anywhere from Florida back into the Northeast. It's going to be a pretty crazy story. So let's begin with what is happening tonight into tomorrow. We are expecting some passing snow flurries underneath a very intense Arctic high-pressure system, which is located off into the northern plains. And this is going to help to bring a little bit of moisture down to the south. But obviously, extremely cold air is going to be in place, which means that we could see some snow flurries out there tonight into tomorrow morning. So if you're in Little Rock, if you're back over in Kentucky, even parts of Tennessee, you do have a possibility of seeing some snow tonight. Early tomorrow morning, we will begin to see a little bit of some snow moving across parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, and the Appalachian Mountains. Snow will continue across the Great Lakes as well. And then back down here into the Gulf, that is where a low-pressure system is forecasted to form underneath an Arctic high. So that is going to form and eventually move up the coast of the United States. And this is going to lead to the threat of a major winter storm for some of you this weekend. So as we go into late Friday night and early Saturday, that moisture and that cold air that's coming out of the north and west is going to meet with a developing low-pressure system back over near Florida. And this is eventually going to start to translate to some heavier snow in areas like Tennessee, Western Virginia, and also into North Carolina late tomorrow night. As we go into Saturday morning, this is going to start to intensify into a rather dangerous winter storm across areas in the mid-Atlantic. And this is mainly due to the fact that we are going to start to see some much heavier snowfall in North Carolina, Tennessee, northern Georgia, and back into Virginia by the time we go into the waking hours of Saturday morning. So, right around sunrise, that snow is really going to pick up in intensity. And then during the afternoon hours is when this will be one of the most intense periods of heavy snowfall and high winds across the mid-Atlantic, as we are expecting moderate to heavy snowfall from areas like Atlanta, Georgia, back into southern Maryland, and also really impacting Cape Hatteras, where we could easily see well over a foot of snowfall from this winter storm. That heavy snowfall will continue throughout the afternoon on Saturday. The worst of it will be near Greenville in South Carolina and just to the west there of Charlotte. And then eventually, as we go into Saturday evening, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening here. But this winter storm is going to be growing in size, so this winter storm will be impacting far more people by Saturday night, stretching from Delaware and New Jersey back into Georgia. And even look at this. Back over in Florida, we could see some Gulf effect snow. It's not something that you hear very often. It's probably not something that you've heard of in a very long time if you're back over in Florida, or maybe ever. But there is a possibility, Saturday night, with our westerly winds, we could have some moisture slamming into areas near Tampa, Florida, and even near Sarasota. And that could lead to some snow flurries Saturday night. I would not even rule out maybe a coating in an isolated location. It's crazy stuff that's going to be on the table. On top of that, we will also have some moisture on the backside of the low-pressure system. Winds coming out of the north, and that could lead to some rare snowfall near Jacksonville, maybe as far south as Daytona Beach. So, keep an eye out Saturday night if you're back over in Florida. While it's extremely cold, we could also have some snow happening Saturday night. That snow is going to remain very intense across South Carolina and North Carolina. Light snow will continue in parts of Ohio, Tennessee, all the way back into New York. It'll be very isolated, but there could be some light snow, maybe up to an inch of snow in isolated locations. But this is really where the heaviest of the snow is going to remain. And it's going to be so cold in areas like the Carolinas that this snow is going to stack up very quickly. It's going to be a fluffy snow for most of you. 3 inches of snow per hour will be possible in some locations, so that's going to be of a big deal there. But also notice our low pressure center here. It's going to be down to 982 millibars by overnight Saturday into early Sunday. So, this is going to become a bomb cyclone. What that essentially means is that our pressure is dropping by at least 24 millibars within a 24-hour period. And this isn't the most intense it's going to be, by the way. It's actually going to get more intense as we go into Sunday morning. It'll drop under 970 millibars in the Atlantic Ocean. So, this is actually going to intensify further as we go into late Saturday, which means that pressure is going to be dropping rapidly. The winds are going to rapidly increase, and our snow is only going to get more intense. By Sunday morning, this winter storm will continue to move to the northeast. Things get a lot more tricky by Sunday morning. The track is very questionable still. There's still several scenarios, one of which is that it tracks a little bit closer to the coast and impacts areas a lot heavier back over in southern New England. And then another scenario would be it goes a little bit more out to sea and only brings heavy snowfall mainly to the Cape Cod and Nantucket areas of southern New England. So there's a couple scenarios at play right now. One of which would cause a lot more snow in southern New England. The other one would be a lot less significant for most areas aside from Cape Cod and Connecticut. But nonetheless, Sunday morning, we are at least forecasting some heavier snow to impact Cape Cod and also Nantucket, southeastern New England being impacted. Snow will continue Sunday morning in the Carolinas and also up towards New Jersey and Delaware. And then snow will start to wind down by Sunday afternoon in the mid-Atlantic. And then we'll be dealing with some heavier snowfall across New England as we go into Sunday evening. And then by Monday, this winter storm is moving out. And then a little bit more snow is possible in the Midwest as we go into late Saturday, Sunday, and as well as into Monday. It's going to be pretty minimal overall, but we could definitely see some snow showers that could lead to an inch or two in some locations, but not expecting any winter storm in that area as of now. Now, in just a moment, we'll talk more about the snowfall accumulation. But I do want to point out that the winds are going to be very high on Saturday and Sunday, and the National Weather Service offices of South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia have warned that blizzard warnings will likely be issued for many areas during the daytime on Saturday, and also into early Sunday. As this low-pressure system continues to intensify, look at how high the winds are going to start to get just offshore of North Carolina, and even right along Cape Hatteras. They're going to start gusting closer to 60 and even 70 miles per hour in some locations. Inland locations in the Carolinas and Virginia will be gusting upwards of 20 to 30 miles per hour. So the wind will get a lot more intense in those locations. And then back into the southeast, we're not really expecting a whole lot of snow here. Again, some snow is possible, but we're not going to have enough snow in any of these areas like Florida, Georgia, or Alabama to actually have blizzard conditions. With that said, wind gusts will be upwards of 40 to 50 miles per hour on Saturday. And that Arctic plume of air will arrive on Saturday. So, it is going to be bone-chilling air across the southeast for most of Saturday. And then by Saturday night, notice how the wind gusts all across the immediate east coast will be upwards of 40 miles per hour near Virginia Beach and closer to 60 and 70 miles per hour in Cape Hatteras. I truly think Cape Hatteras could be pushing over a foot of snow out of this winter storm. And that snow is just going to be blowing around. I mean, we're going to have full-blown blizzard conditions in those areas on Saturday. And then by Sunday morning, the winds will actually intensify further inland. So parts of North Carolina, near Charlotte, back into Virginia, wind gusts will be near 30, 35, some locations near 40 miles per hour. The Appalachian Mountains will be gusting upwards of 50 to 60 miles per hour. So we will likely have a slew of blizzard warnings issued with very high winds. And on Sunday, we are expecting blizzard conditions to ramp up over in New England. Winds, especially in Cape Cod and Nantucket, will be around 60 to 70 miles per hour. Further inland, around 20 to 30 miles per hour. But no matter what, there is a lot of snow on the ground across New England still. Very little of it has melted. So that means that wind is going to be pushing around snow throughout the daytime. We'll have snow drifts. We'll have blowing snow. It could definitely get pretty dangerous out there when it comes to traveling on Sunday, especially near Nantucket and Cape Cod. And then by Monday, conditions will improve in terms of wind all across the East Coast. And one of the main things that has shifted over the last 24 hours, and even since our forecast this morning, is the snowfall accumulation. And this is a very tricky forecast, guys. We are talking about such a small, compact, but intense storm that is going to be impacting nearly the entire East Coast. So, this is one of the hardest things that we are trying to forecast right now. And I think this is really going to give us the best idea of who's going to see significant snowfall. So, right now, we're going to go south to north. So, back over in Florida. Yes, we are expecting the possibility of flurries, maybe even a coating near Orlando, Florida, perhaps over near Tampa as well. Those locations will have some very light snowfall as we go into Saturday night and early Sunday. The odds of there actually being snow are rapidly increasing, guys. I do think there will be snow in Florida. Further out to the north, though, across Georgia, I'm only expecting maybe 1 to 3 inches. If you're over in northeastern Georgia, these are the same areas that were impacted by the ice storm this past weekend. Luckily, this was not an area that experienced widespread power outages. But at the same time, we are going to be talking about a few inches of snow for you guys. There's no ice coming out of this, by the way, so that is good news. But the bad news is the further north you go, the worse these snowfall totals get. And for some of you, you're probably excited about this. For many others, though, you probably do not want to be dealing with upwards of a foot of snowfall. And that is exactly what is on the table for this weekend, as I am forecasting most of Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina to have a widespread 4 to 8 inches of snowfall. Greenville, South Carolina, back over towards Myrtle Beach, I think will be right around 4 inches. If you're over in eastern North Carolina, this is going to be the jackpot. This is the bullseye. Over in Virginia Beach, Cape Hatteras, we are expecting upwards of 8 to 16 inches of snowfall. I know that is a very large range, but snowdrifts, blowing snow, it's going to make it a very complicated forecast in these areas, but I do expect very heavy snowfall across this entire corridor, which will make travel very treacherous and dangerous right along the East Coast. And then further off to the west, and also to the north across southern Virginia, areas like Roanoke and Richmond that really saw no snow from this past winter storm, we are expecting around 5 to 10 inches of snow in those locations. The Appalachian Mountains will also get hit pretty hard, with upwards of a foot of snow in the higher elevations. Most areas in Pennsylvania, New York, and also back into New England aren't really going to see a whole lot from this winter storm. We're maybe going to be talking about a coating to an inch in some of those locations. If you're New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, this is where we could be talking about some higher numbers. So, Washington, D.C., right around 1 to 2 inches. But if you're right along the coastline, I think right around 4 to 8 inches of snow is on the table, especially along the immediate coastline of Delaware, Maryland, and New Jersey. And then once we go into southern New England, this is where totals really get crazy. I think this will probably be the jackpot of all jackpots out of this winter storm, as Cape Cod and Nantucket, by the end of this winter storm, could be talking about upwards of 12 to 18 inches of snowfall if this storm tracks close enough to the coastline. I wouldn't even rule out an additional 2 feet of snow on top of what we just saw out of this past winter storm. And then beyond this winter storm, we aren't really talking about any sort of major snow events to begin next week. Obviously, things can always change, but for right now, some light snow is possible across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley by Monday and Tuesday. And eventually by Wednesday and Thursday of next week, we may see the return of an Alberta clipper that could be impacting parts of the Great Lakes and the Northeast sometime around the end of next week. And then after that, things become a lot more uncertain. Now, the other big problem with this winter storm is that we are going to be dealing with some of the coldest air that we've seen this winter. I know I've said that almost every single week, but these Arctic blasts just keep getting worse for a lot of us. So as we go into tomorrow, and as well as Saturday, we are going to be talking about extremely cold air all across the southern plains in the southeast. Very, very cold air in Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. We'll be breaking upwards of 100 temperature records on just Saturday alone in the southeast. And then by Sunday and Monday, that cold air is going to stick around right along the immediate coastline. We could see another shot of at least some cold air stretching from Texas back into the Northeast by the middle and end of next week. This will not be as intense as what we're dealing with this weekend, but it will obviously definitely keep things cold in these areas. This is going to be a winter storm that changes everything for millions of people across the eastern United States. Make sure you're prepared for what could be days without power, especially in areas expecting the heaviest snow and strongest winds. Stay safe out there as this historic bomb cyclone develops over the next 48 hours.